Coming to you live from the San Francisco Bay Area. It's time for Zig in the Zone with Ralph Zig Tycho.
Hey, what a nice introduction. Thank you, AI. Thank you, Paulie B. And we have a great show for you. Let me ask you how your recovery is going. You were ill for a couple of weeks and had us all scared. And I want to make sure it's still on track.
Yeah, I'm doing okay, Ziggy. Thank you for asking, buddy. Yeah, no, it's been a little bumpy, and I don't get sick often. I never feel 100%, but when I get sick, it's usually pretty serious. It's been 3 weeks, so I'm about 95% better. I can still hear the cough in me, and
Okay.
but otherwise, my energy levels up. My emotions are running high because before I was just drained. I was just emotionally and physically drained, and so I'm back up to my nice wired self. How are you?
So, I'm fine. It's so nice to hear what you just said, because you had us all worried. What are we going to do for fun?
Right, because this is the digital sandbox that we live in today. This is what we do, right? This is how we have fun. So
I want to explain what we do. We have fun primarily, and by doing that, we engage some of the most interesting, well-spoken folks in the world. And it's the Comfortably Zone Network. And I've been doing podcasting for like 12 years, 13 years. And this is the second season of video podcasting. And it's made a difference. I'm enjoying it. Why? Because I get to look in the eyes of our guests and see the expressions, see it all. And what better way to bring on our first guest is to introduce Camille Washington Hobart. Is that the right way of pronouncing
you did it? You did it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so it's I was married, so Hobart, and then so everyone in the Bay Area, because this is where I was born and raised, knows me as Camille Washington. So I always have to say that because they're like, what happened? Or so
not just the Bay Area. Now everybody on the internet knows you.
Yeah.
And so welcome to the internet. Welcome to Comfortably Zoned. And this is very cool for me. And I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you the history of Zig and your dad, Claudel Washington. When I got to California, I'm a New Yorker, and I grew up not worshiping Billy Martin, but being incredibly curious about his history. And this is before I met Peter Golenbach and read his books. And what have you. So what I would do is when Berkeley High was having an event of some sort, a baseball event, I'd show up. And I got an introduction. I befriended Pumpsy Green a little bit, hard man to get to know. But he was the superintendent, not a janitor, a superintendent, the old fashioned super of Berkeley High after he retired from baseball. And he was known as being the first African American that the Boston Red Sox ever had.
Mm.
And I found two things out. I found out about Billy Martin from Pumpsy, that Billy Martin does not and did not, does not at the time, but did not have a prejudice bone in his body. And that made me happy. 1959, when Pumpsy Green was the first black player, a disgrace. Yorkie could have signed the likes of Willie Mays. It could have been, imagine black players playing in Boston earlier. Imagine the humanity of not having to keep out a black player because of his race. Anyway, I was at one of these events and I ran into Pumpsy and I said, who's the prospect at Berkeley High? Because I'd like to follow what was going on. And he said, oh, come here, meet Claudell Washington. He was the first guy that came to Pumpsy's mind, and he happened to be standing right there. And I happened to shake hands with him. And I judge a man or a woman by how they meet people and whether or not they make eye contact. It is so important. And Pumpsy and Claudell, your dad, both had that in common. They look you in the eye. And so that's how I got to meet him. My second story is that years later, and I'd renew acquaintances with him periodically at these events. And what happened? I was the Tops rep later on and got to meet mutual friends of his. And it was very cool. But years later, the A's traded, I don't remember the deal, but Claudell Washington became a New York Met. And I'm a New York Met fan. And Larry King had a nighttime show that was syndicated. It was the old Long John Nebel show. And he took over. He was one of those who took over and got his start, really, in the public eye through that show. And he talked a lot of ball. He was a baseball fan. He went to Lafayette High School in New York with Sandy Koufax. And I would periodically call shows like that to, more than periodically, I would call on a regular basis the local channel radio station, KNBR, here in San Francisco. And I called him one night because I was so excited. Claudell Washington was a New York Met. And I talked to Larry King, and I just babbled. And he loved my babble. because he kept me on the air for a second segment. And I was selling insurance and unhappy and realizing that it wouldn't be great to do this for a living, something like that, this for a living, and get in something that was a passion for a way of going through life. It took me a long time to get to that point where if you find out what your passion is, you're going to enjoy work. It's not going to be work. And, anyway, Larry King says in closing at the end of the second segment, and I was very excited. Like, I actually knew a future New York Met at that point. It was, I'm a little kid and always have been and still am. So stuff like that was important to me. And Larry King says to me at the end of he says, call back anytime. I love your passion. And I said I would. And I never did. It's like I never followed up. I could have gotten into it sooner. I could have did it. Coulda, woulda, shoulda type thing. But that's my Larry King story. And those are my Claudel Washington stories. Now, I want to know about him from the perspective of his daughter. And I will shut up and give you the microphone and let you say anything that's on your mind. I know there are a few clarifications that you wish to clear up about his signing and the scout that signed him. And our mutual friend of Nancy said, just let her go. And you'll have no trouble getting a podcast that people are going to enjoy. So, Camille Washington, go at it. Tell me about your dad.
Well, it's very interesting that you came across the superintendent that introduced me to my dad, because my dad told me that he used to work as a janitor. So he had family members who worked for the city of Berkeley. So that's how the superintendent probably knew him, because my dad worked under him.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
And something else interesting I learned, which I knew because he's talked about it before, but when you said that you had known my dad when he was younger, I thought you meant that maybe you played sports and you met him that way. But working with Tops, the person who took the photographs for Tops is also from the Bay Area, the Berkeley area. And so this year we went to the A's 74th World Series reunion, and were given photos of two pictures, one when he played with the Atlanta Braves and one with the A's, and it had Hawk on the back of it. So his Tops cards, which you represented Tops, are in the actual MLB museum. They have a complete collection of Tops cards of all the players. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but it was such a privilege for me to work on the West Coast for Tops in the Northwest League and the California League, signing players for them. So when they reached the big leagues, we'd have permission to use their picture on a baseball card. And do you remember how much they paid Claudel for his first contract with Tops?
I do not remember. I do not know that.
It was the same as every player got. He got $5 and the promise that and the permission to use his picture, and vice versa. Um, Tops would use his picture when and if he made the big leagues.
You know
And
that is so interesting to know because I didn't research that until I kind of put two and two together because a lot of people had played little league sports, but then you being a representative in tops and all kids take baseball photos. I took baseball photos when I was younger, but to know that you kind of start this process before you actually get scouted and signed and
well,
in
that
the major
now,
league.
no, I didn't mean to confuse you on that. Tops's job is to sign to a contract with Tops, and I was a go-between. They'd send me, pay my per diem, and I'd drive around Washington, around Oregon every summer for like 13 years. What a privilege. I'd meet all my old buddies who were um, not my old buddies, but my old guys that I'd root for were coaching in the minors at that time. And but the the prerequisite is that Tops signs everybody that signed to organize ball, and then signs them to contracts. Now it used to be, let me clarify, that Tops would put out scouts, actual baseball scouts, and they scout the minors, and they would only sign the players that the scouts recommended. Now, one year, Maury Wills became eligible for the big league. Became a big leaguer, and he would not sign. They didn't offer him a contract when he was a minor leaguer, and he refused to sign a contract, and that went on for like 4 or 5 years where he didn't have a Tops card. So they changed their policy, and they ended up signing. Their policy ended up being that they signed everybody in organized ball, so something like that doesn't happen again. Now, I read about this in 1973, and I realized that would be a candidate for that job because I was nothing more than a salesman, a schmoozer, a go-between, and I could do this job because this job didn't require a scout. This job just required someone who could explain the contract, talk. I'm like you, I'm not that shy. So it was an easy job for me. And I applied uh, in the mid 70s to Cy Berger, who was the Tops guy responsible for it all. And he said, I like you. He says, I just have nothing for you now, but be patient, I will. And one day I get a call, Cy Berger, still interested? Am I still interested? Being the Tops guy on the West Coast, having a paid vacation every year for 13 years, I think I'm interested. And that was the start, and that's the history of Tops. So I have Maury Wills to thank. I'm a Giant fan, and he was a Dodger fan, and he was a Dodger among other teams, the Pirates. Maury Wills was a damn good ball player. I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. If he isn't already, I've lost track of a lot of things in my head. But I have him to thank. He was a man who stood for his integrity. He wasn't gonna. They didn't want me as for a Topps card back then. Why should I want them now? And I like people like that. Your dad was like that in a lot of ways. Tell me how.
So that is where the Mets come in because I don't know if you know this, but the Mets tried to sign him around the same time that the A's did. And the Mets scout came all the way from New York and said, well, I don't think he played very well. But my dad's response was, well, I already signed with the A's anyway. So the scout, and it was a big deal because the scout came all the way from New York to sign Claudel Washington, and he had already signed with the Ace. So the scout had put something in the newspaper, and that's how it kind of, well, who scouted Claudel Washington? And then the Ace organization stepped in and said, well, we scouted him and we signed him and he's part of our organization. And so that's fast forward to him being in New York in 1980. It was kind of like, I guess they call that a full daisy or I don't know what it's called.
What comes around goes around.
Right, what comes around goes around, and he was in New York for a year, and that's when he tied Babe Ruth's record for hitting 3 home runs in a game in both the AL and the NL, the American League and the National League, and he was in New York for 1 year. And then he left. And, it was, I remember because we were in New York at that time. That was the first time that we were in like a big city besides San Francisco. And my mom was kind of like scared. And we used to just walk to the pizza parlor. They had really good pizza there down the street from our house. And go to the games. That's all we did. We'd go get pizza and go to the games.
Where did you live? Was it Flushing? Where you
I
live?
do not know. I can't remember. I'd have to ask her.
Because Flushing, growing up, had great pizza. It's very close to Jackson Heights. I live close to Shea Stadium. And I was blessed. I don't know if you remember taking the 7 line to Shea Stadium. But you were a little girl at that time. What did you remember about being the daughter of a major leaguer?
Well, we grew up, me and my brother and sister grew up traveling with my dad. So me, my mom, my brother and sister, we were with him everything he went to. And our summers were spring training. We didn't go to school in the summer. And then during the summer, we'd get tutoring. And I had listened to one of your segments before where you had talked about your tutor, how important your tutor was. And that's how my tutor was. She was a retired school teacher during the summer. And I had to catch up on all of my work that I missed, during spring training. And at that time, we had to be tested in order to get to the next grade. So they didn't just pass you in, and I didn't get a pass because my dad played baseball, definitely. If anything, it was a little bit harder because the kids were like, why isn't she in school all the time?
Right.
So I really had to focus on passing those tests every year, and if I didn't have a tutor, I probably could not have done that.
Sometimes the tutor doesn't have to be full-time. It could be one tutoring lesson that changes a switch or does something. I admire the fact that you were able to take tutoring. It's offered to a lot of people. and they don't take it. So you had an open mind.
Yes, and it was kind of it was somewhat of a requirement because I wasn't in school all year round. So to make it even with everyone else, I had so many assignments I had to take. It was almost like I think at that time it was called independent study. They used to do it with military kids. She helped me with this because her kids were a military family. Her husband was in the military, and this is what they used to do: correspondence education.
They used to call military dependents military brats. That was the expression they used. I had a much more stable upbringing because I wasn't with the military or with baseball or whatever. So I look at it as 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. You raised, you get the best part of what you get, and you take what you get. Sounds like your dad was a great guy.
Yeah, he really was a great guy. It was really hard when he passed away because I knew about the prostate cancer when he found that. And for those that don't know, my dad passed away of prostate cancer in 2020. And we knew a couple years before that it was terminal. So it was really hard to process when you know something like that. And then, then there's the hope that maybe it's not terminal, that it hadn't spread, but when cancer spreads outside of the designated area, that's when they say that it's terminal, and they do all this chemotherapy. And chemotherapy is a lot. And I would talk to my dad a lot over the phone because I was in Atlanta. I was in Savannah, Georgia at the time. So I can hear the pain in his voice, and it's a lot to hear that, yet to see it and then imagine it. So it was really hard. It was really hard to process that and kind of talk about the important things, which baseball wasn't one of those things during that time because, all the stories have already been told, and it was more just now a matter of, correcting little fine tuning when it comes to, is your dad going to go into the Hall of Fame? Will he go into the Hall of Fame? What did his career really look like? What haven't we seen, or what didn't we look at that time that would, now position him to be seen after his death, as a Hall of Fame player? So that's kind of the role that I've stepped into, and I have been communicating with Nancy Finley, who is trying to do the same thing with her dad, Paul Finley, who was manager for the A's and worked with Charles Finley, and we're trying to get our dads into the A's Hall of Fame, and then go from there. So we've been doing a lot of reaching out to the MLB, and making contacts to kind of find out, well, how does this story need to be told? And how do we fill in what parts of the story wasn't told before?
Well, Nancy, I don't know anything about your communication with over the matter with MLB, but Nancy was lied to by just got fired, I can't think of his name, an A's president who was no more than just someone who is greasing the way for the move to Las Vegas. And he promised her that Carl would get in.
Oh, excuse me. I'm thinking. I'm sorry, I said Paul. Carl.
Carl. Well, Paul should be right here.
I was watching it. Hey, that's
So
okay. We just put it. We
I
just put
know.
it.
I've got. There's. I will get back to that.
We just put a hash mark up on the air side. We have one error in play.
Right.
But let me jump into
We
this,
make-
guys.
we
Let me
make
jump into this.
mistakes all-
Hold on a
we make
second.
mistakes all the time, Joan.
There,
Um,
there you go.
I know. There's Paul. Like, we've been talking all this time. Where's Paul? He's not in Finley. He's got an A's hat on though.
Yes, I do. I actually have my Ace shirt on, and I had my Ace hat on earlier too, which is I don't even know where that is right now.
Right.
But let me read this. And for some reason, of course, Zig, we're getting a lot of background noise from you, and I'm not sure why.
oh, really?
Yeah, but it's only when other people are talking and it's echoing in your mobile studio.
I can hear it too.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know what to do about that.
Yeah, the only thing you can do is mute, but that's not going to help right now. Let me see if I can adjust from this side because I'm dying to read this from MLB.com. Darn it. Let me see here. What if I don't think I can do it. All right, so we'll try it. This is the obit for your dad off of MLB. Claudel Washington experienced a major of his success with the Braves, but the Bay Area native also made his mark with the hometown A's, and his historical entrenched him in the Yankees record books as one of the franchise milestone homers. Washington contributes to each of these organizations were once again remembered on Wednesday when the former outfielder passed away at the age of 65. He had told The Atlantic in 2018 he was battling prostate cancer and planned to stop ongoing treatment. Washington was an all-time all-star who hit 278 with 164 home runs, 312 stolen bases, and a 745 OPS over 17 major league seasons. He became one of the first players in Major League Baseball to produce a 3-homer game in both leagues. And he was the guy, this is the part that brings tears to my eyes. He's the guy that hit the foul ball in the Ferris Bueller movie, that he grabs the foul ball and he's holding it. It was actually your dad that hit that. In the 1980 classic Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Washington was just 19 years old when he debuted on the A's in July 5th, 1974. 3 months later, he went 4 for 7 in the World Series and helped Oakland win a third consecutive title. His best season with the hometown club came in 1975 when he recorded a career high of 40 steals, produced a 769 OPS, and earned his first-time All-Star selection. And though Washington experienced early success, it took some time for him to find some stability. The A's traded him before the 77 season, and midway through the 78, the Rangers dealt him a Rusty Torres to the White Sox, exchanged for Bobby Bonds. Wow, there you go. And it just goes on from there. So your dad's that legacy. He's got his feet in both sides of the league. He's well respected on both sides.
Yes.
Whatever he deserves regarding the Hall of Fame, he's in the Hall of damn good ball players.
Exactly.
And that really, who am I to judge who's better, the politics of it, what have you? He was a damn good Major League Baseball player. What more? And an all-star dad.
Yes. Yes. Very
He
much
cared
so.
about your education. And it was very important to him, or it wouldn't be very important to you.
Exactly. You know, that is a lot of the kids, they weren't able to travel like we traveled because school was an issue for them. So I always felt like it was really important for me to to pass into the next grade fairly without being prompted, other than just the resources given to me from my tutor to be able to make it from grade to grade. And I did this all the way up until seventh grade. So all the way until I got into junior high school, I traveled with my dad. And finally, my seventh grade year, I asked him, I was like, well, can I just go to school all year round? And he was like, yeah, you can. By this time, that's when he was playing with the Yankees. He had hit the 10,000 home run that summer that I was in school all year round. And that very next year, I won class president. And as the class president, I had a budget to take my entire school to an A's Yankees game. So we pulled a Ferris Bueller's Day Off when I was in 8th grade.
That's cool.
That is so freaking cool. Let me just say, great. Paulie, how are we doing time-wise?
We're at 36 after, sir.
36 after?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell me about your mom.
So my mom, she is she's in Atlanta, and she has a nonprofit called Kids All Dressed Up. She was into fashion design. When her and my dad met, she was going to the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising in San Francisco. So she put her career on hold to travel with my dad, and so she does I guess it would be like shorts in the scope of what YouTube does now, but and film, but for fashion she has these independent clothing lines she'll put out, and she's designed for Nordstrom's. She does little boutiques, and she facilitates sewing programs for kids in Atlanta.
And again, it's Kids All Dressed Up Design Studio. You can check out what they do on kidsaldressedup.org. They are a 501c3 nonprofit organization that's provide enrichment activities for kids ages 5 to 17 in the Atlanta metro area since '04. So
yeah,
your mom's doing it. Go, Mom, go.
Yeah, she's making a mark in Atlanta.
There you go.
What's the number one thing she taught you?
I'd say to be headstrong. I'm very headstrong. And in some instances, maybe a little bit more than others. So I get that from definitely from my mom and my grandmother. Yeah.
Okay. What's the main thing your dad taught you?
To be who I am, to never change for anyone.
Nice.
Yeah, self-love.
I love that. Very cool. Tell me about your brother.
So he's the baby maker of the family.
Okay.
I have my nieces and nephews from him, and he works in transportation. Yeah.
Okay.
He's in Atlanta also.
Wow, you guys are all over the place. That nice that you can keep up with today's technology. You could just get on the phone. That makes it easier.
Yeah, that's what we did a lot because I was in Savannah, and then my mom and my brother, they're in Atlanta. That's like 3 hours away, and my dad was here all the way in California. So everything was, all our communication was very much like this. You're texting, you're messaging, you're seeing how how everyone is doing, and it seems like that's just the modern age of communication. A lot of people communicate this way.
Hey, but you guys don't have Polly B.
No, we don't, and I'm glad I've got to meet and connect up with Polly B because I have some projects that maybe I can work with him on.
Absolutely, would love to.
I sincerely hope so because you are a delight, and part of being headstrong is being a bulldog. You'll do it your way, but you'll do it and keep doing it. And right? So, and Paulie, you love working with Paulie. He is, he's terrific, and I'm privileged. He's my sidekick and my tech guy, and puts up with the old man. How about that?
I kind of feel like the Kato to your Green Hornet, man. I'm telling you. Squawk.
I love it. Hey, Paulie, will take a moment, and if Camille doesn't want to indulge in this, I could certainly appreciate it. But let's have a virtual hit. A hit-ski with Tikachinsky.
Well, there you go. Yeah, no, I'm keeping it real. I'm definitely keeping it real. I've got my pen in house. Today's flavor is from Flab. It's live resin. I guess live resin is better than dead resin. So thank you, folks.
Beautiful.
So that's the virtual hit ski. And if you're somewhere where it's legal, which is everywhere on this planet, enjoy it. It's just Mother Nature. It's not going to hurt you. Unless you're in one of these atmospheric rivers. Unless you're in an atmospheric, hold on. Unless you're in an atmospheric river. The Bay Area has seen 11 inches of rain in 72 hours.
Yeah. But my car is clean.
But your car's clean.
You're not drifting in a flood anywhere. You're in good shape.
No, thank whomever. But I'll just thank myself for parking in a good spot. How about that?
There you go.
All right.
So here's another person we need to get into the A's Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
Apparently, we need to start some sort of fund here to get some of these people. And it's weird because it's not a money thing, is it? I mean, I know that's what drives the big machine. I know that's what drives, like, moves from the A's going to Vegas and stuff like that. But it shouldn't drive who makes it to the Hall of Fame.
Right. Well, from my understanding, there was a misunderstanding about getting into the Hall of Fame. You need to be with the ball club for 5 years, and that's why they included the Atlanta Braves, because my dad was with the Atlanta Braves for 5 years.
Got you.
But according to Nancy Finley, and looking through the records, because this is like a research question. This is where you find out like who really scouted the person, and not what the press said or what the media said, but what's really going on. Is that my dad did sign with the Oakland A's in '72, which means that he would have qualified for 5 years of being with the A's organization, although 2 of those years were in the minor league. So that's the question. That's one of the clarifications that needed to be made as to did he qualify for the 5 years. And so when I was at the reunion this past year for the '74 team,
Dave Cavell. I just thought of his name.
Dave Cavell. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, when I was there, I received 2 photographs. One was from the A's, and one was from the Braves with Hawk on the back of it. the Hall of Fame, and it had the Topps card photographer, which was why it's really nice that I met you to kind of, put all of those pieces together as well. And so my dad did qualify for two teams, and apparently Reggie Jackson was someone who facilitated this because he could have gone into the A's Hall of Fame, or he could have gone into, I believe, the Yankees Hall of Fame. And so there's a conversation that, if you play for a team for 5 years, do you have a preference? Do you get a choice as to what team you would like to go into the Hall of Fame? And I know because I had this conversation with my dad, his preference was the A's Hall of Fame. And I know people in Atlanta are like, oh, we want Claudel in Atlanta, but I know that's when my dad started attending the reunions, and what he expressed to me is if he could have it that way, But he wasn't the type of guy to be like, I need to be in the Hall of Fame, put me in the Hall of Fame. He's a very humble person.
Yeah, like I say, a damn good player.
Yeah.
Which is what satisfied him.
Yes.
That he certainly did the best he could. And he did it with style. So glad to have his daughter on my show.
Well, I'm glad to have met you, and thank you for inviting me.
Okay. Hey, why don't you have an on-the-air conversation in general terms of how you think Paulie might help you, and see how he responds.
Okay, so here's a little other plug into Mets history.
Okay.
When I was in Savannah, Georgia, I met a lady who had founded a nonprofit at a minor league Mets game. So I don't know if you know that the Mets played in Savannah, Georgia. They had a minor league team back in 2016.
No, I didn't.
Remember that.
Yes, so I was at a Mets minor league game, and I met this lady who had a nonprofit, and I did some work with her, and she was really impressed with the projects and the programs that I implemented. And when she was ready to retire, she just gave the entire nonprofit to me. Of course, she asked me if I was, if I wanted it first, if I could see myself, taking over completely financial responsibility. She had over 950 projects. Her budget had gone up to $100,000. She did a lot of work with the city of Savannah. Her programs were oriented towards the Jewish community. So I worked with the Jewish Education Alliance Center in Savannah, along with the Frank Callan's Boys and Girls Club. And I put together a lot of these programs, and we recreated ourselves from cultural arts to creative arts. So it was really an interesting experience to meet somebody and spectator of a world that you had been so much involved in. It's me being involved in baseball, being in Savannah, a place that's not where my family is from, but I moved there because I was married, and then kind of recreating this, new venture and meeting new people, but still all the dots are being connected. And so that's how I kind of came into having my own nonprofit, and it's a 501c3 nonprofit, and it was established in 1990. So this year we're celebrating 35 years, and we do virtual art projects. And so we're needing a studio partner like Paul to kind of facilitate and help with a partner that we have that we just partnered with this year, all the way in Uganda, in Kampala, Uganda.
Wow.
So we're doing an art activity. We do meaningful art experiences through the virtual platform. and we work with natural materials, and we talk about causes, we talk about the creative process, we go out into the community, we mobilize. So kind of the way you put everything together would be so great to be able to do this for my organization, Morningstar Arts Creative.
Yeah, and I could see it. I could see it to a point of where, and just to let you know, sorry Zig, your mic is really getting wonkier and wonkier as time goes on, but that's okay. We need to get you a lavalier mic and we won't have that issue. um yeah, I mean, even you going out to these different events, getting footage from that, having conversation with the people that make your organization run, and then also your partnership with this other entity. Those are all good things. These are great things to bring to light. Congratulations on 35 years having a nonprofit nowadays. That's really something. There's something to be said about that. It's hard to keep these things in the nonprofit sector moving forward consistently.
Yes.
And so congratulations on that. That's a milestone.
Thank you.
And we need to try to help you foster that and get more traction and get people knowing what you're doing out there. So
that would be great.
So I look forward to talking to you about that, and we can definitely do that. Even on the air, you guys, we pitch this every once in a while. We want you to be able to express yourself in a creative, positive environment where it's right for you. Not every person has their mobile studio. Not everybody can come into San Francisco, but we can help you do what you do. If you have a stable internet connection, if you have a device, like right now, you're doing great. Are you working off a phone or a laptop?
Off of my phone.
And that doesn't look bad. I mean, it could be better.
I know. I'm updating my equipment. I'm on a Samsung. It's not even an Apple.
Oh no, and like I said, even that, having a laptop in front of you, having a stable internet connection, and it just goes from there. And we can help you guys do that. So if you're trying to express yourself, get your information out there. Here at Edge Studios, we can help you do that. Send us an email at edgestudiosonline@gmail.com. Again, that's edgestudiosonline@gmail.com. Or reach out to us on any social media or wherever you see our podcasts. We have people doing this like Zig here, literally doing it from his mobile studio. Why? Because it's rain and blustery outside. And it's just so much easier just to do it from right there.
Right.
So we're here to help.
I was able to listen to your season, I believe it was maybe the season 1 episode where you talked about how, you kind of had to transform when the person you took over doing the studio project for, how you kind of started the internet podcast, and then you kind of had to revamp it into how you saw it, how you see it fitting in the scope of moving this forward. So that was very interesting to learn that.
We had to de-crackhead the studio.
Yeah.
Say that.
Now he's stealing my lines. That's right. I rebuilt the crackhead's dream. But you're right. We had to bring it into the new century, and we were able to do that with a lot of testing that we did over the pandemic. We had this beautiful space. We retrofitted it for cameras so that, I don't just have one camera. I have 2 cameras. I don't have 2 cameras. I have 3 cameras.
Hey, you mentioned something. I didn't
that are all off
that.
balance, by the way. Go ahead.
Whenever you think I didn't want to say that, should have said that.
There you go.
And that's the old Zig philosophy. It works sometimes.
Right.
So, like I said, with my headstrongness, I sometimes have to monitor myself.
No, I got you. No, I get you. And us being a comedian, that's one thing we try to really reinforce is dropping that filter. So what is it? What's your line, Zig? I don't want to. You stole my line. I don't want to steal your line. But having opinions without being opinionated. I'm the one that's opinionated. I get down to the dirty nitty gritty sometimes, and that's okay because it's all here for entertainment purposes only. So.
And I'm the one who just comes up with the lines.
That's right.
When you think about it, isn't life great that we have each other, and not just the three of us that are out there to make the world better, and who have open minds, and who can listen, and who stayed on the air long enough to hear about the most important thing, your nonprofit. And so if you're listening out there, we appreciate it. Subscribe on the Comfortably Zoned network of YouTube. And
Camille, give us all your information again where we can catch up on your nonprofit. Tell us where we can get your nonprofit and even your mom's too.
Okay, yeah. I will.
Go for it right now. Go for it.
Oh. Okay, well, you can connect to my nonprofit at instarartscreative.org. Right now, we're going in between having a website and a blog, and we're kind of incorporating all of this in on a blog as opposed to putting it on the website. So you can find us at Morningstar Arts Creative for social media, on YouTube. And I have been doing this since 2020. So even if you just put us in the subject search, I come up. We're registered with the Georgia Secretary of State, so you can find all of our information. And my mom is the same.
So,
yes, I'm a literal nonprofit.
If people want to help you, they
I have an EIN
legitimately.
Oh yeah,
and people need to know that. So
yes. Okay.
Anything you want to leave us with? We'd appreciate it, Camille. Anything?
Well, I just want to say I just want to say thank you for having me on here, and I was able to kind of debunk the scouting myth, which is kind of what I have to do in order to position to get my dad into the A's Hall of Fame. That was, I was really kind of perplexed as to what kind of platform would I start on. And I know you're a Billy Martin fan, and in the baseball world, people talk a lot of smack. So there's a lot of language that's used on different platforms, and I just, tried to not engage in it, but engage in it enough to to narrate the story right about my dad's history in baseball and what his experiences are. And so I appreciate you putting that out there, and then just that people can hear that is that I am really feeling like he should be a Hoff with the A's, and I hope that there's other people out there that believe the same thing.
Absolutely, and I was reminded of his achievements. One hell of a base steal.
Yes.
One hell of a leadoff guy. And like I say, he makes eye contact.
Yeah, and he hit some line drives. The guy was all over the place.
Yeah.
So Camille, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, you're a pleasure to be with. And Paulie, I'm appreciative of you as a person.
Oh, you too, Ziggy. I'm glad that I'm here for the ride. This is what I enjoy. This is one of the things I dig, man.
You are the ride, and I'm so glad you're getting better. scared the shit out of me. I gotta tell you.
Yeah, it takes me a lot to get knocked out of the action. I'm with you too, brother. So I appreciate your love. I appreciate everybody's love out there and support of me being sick and just us doing what we do here at Zig in the Zone. For myself, the Zig Man, and Camille, we're gone, right?
Yes.
All right, you guys stick in there. We'll see you guys on the other side. We'll see you next week here in the zone.